Those of you living in southwest Minnesota, stop what you're doing right now. Stop and listen for the next half hour, because a gentleman who wants to be your next congressman has stumbled into the faculty lounge, not inebriated but lost, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Jim Hagedorn is in the faculty lounge today, and he didn't stumble in and he's not lost. He's in Sioux Falls on purpose because, I'm assuming, because we're a media spot and people in southwest Minnesota pay attention to Sioux Falls, South Dakota media.
You bet, and it's all about you, Rick. Nice to be here.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'm the reason. You are a you could be a congressman. You are so full of it.
We're in training.
Jim Hagedorn, first run for Congress?
I got my feet wet in 2010. Took a little run then, learned a few things, and we're back at it.
Okay, you're a Republican.
Yes, sir.
Which works well in southwest Minnesota.
I'm a conservative Republican. Even,
and Southwest District, or whatever that district number is.
First District, Minnesota.
First District.
All the way across the state and the southern part. Yeah.
Are there other Republicans who have dared to challenge you for this?
Two other fellows, nice guys. Yeah.
Okay, and so you're in a primary.
Well, we're not doing a primary. We're going to go to a convention, an endorsement process.
Ooh.
And that's on April 5th in Albert Lea. So.
Ooh, how does that work?
Well, you need about 165 people to tell you that you're the one, and then you win. So each county elects delegates, and those delegates decide who the winner is.
It's kind of like the Iowa. It's kind of like the Iowa caucus.
It's a caucus process, and you go through and
okay.
keep electing delegates throughout the process.
Yeah. Okay, so 4 years ago you ran and it didn't work out, and obviously you're a glutton for punishment and you're back again. Why do you want the job?
Well, because the country's in a lot of trouble, and I feel that my life's experiences have put me in a position where I have experience that I can help the folks. I think the government's got so big and so powerful out in Washington, D.C., that people are beginning to fear their government. We're going from liberty and the rule of law, in my book, to tyranny and the rule of Obama, and we got to do something about that.
What kind of Republican are you?
I'm a conservative. Reagan Republican would be the way I'd put it.
Okay. You're not one of those, are you a Tea Party?
I respect the Tea Party, and we've had many events with the Tea Party. But since I was 12 years old, I've been a Reagan Republican, and had some experiences that have allowed me to fight the national liberals. And I think you're in this arena because you feel that you have something you can contribute and make a difference and help people.
So let's assume for a moment the positive, and you prevail on April 5th. And then you prevail in November, and it is you're now officially the congressman from the 1st District in Minnesota. What committees do you want to be on?
Well, the Agriculture Committee would be primary. Southern Minnesota, agriculture is the backbone of our economy. It sustains our way of life, and it also supports small business in Minnesota. So, agriculture is a national security issue to me. What would we be doing if we had to import our food the way we import our oil? Mm-hmm. We'd be paying more, and the quality would be less, and then our way of life would suffer. So, yes, absolutely, the Agriculture Committee.
Okay, second choice.
The Appropriations Committee. It's very rare.
Well, sure.
Well,
yeah.
no, I mean...
You're not freshman congressman. They're not going to put you in appropriations.
They do it on occasion, and I have some background there working with appropriators to actually cut government. And I think it would be really neat to put someone on that committee whose goal is to reform government, as I did when I was at the Treasury Department and worked on Capitol Hill, and someone that actually wants to go in there and shake things up.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk with you about previous work experience, and we'll explore some other opportunities. Jim Hagedorn wants to be congressman from the 1st District, Southwest Minnesota. This is VPU. 15 minutes after 4 o'clock, students in southwest Minnesota, keep listening very carefully. Jim Hagedorn is with us. He wants to be your next congressman. He is one of 3 Republicans trying to get the job. There's a caucus-type meeting up in, where'd you say?
Well, we have actually a county convention in Rock County tomorrow night, and so they'll be selecting delegates to go to the Albert Lea District Convention.
Okay, Albert Lea, which is April
5th.
Okay. And then if you prevail on April 5th, then you're done, then you're in, and life is good, and you just face...
we just continue what we're doing, which is take the campaign right to liberal Tim Walz.
Okay. How did Tim Walz get elected in southwest Minnesota? I thought there was some demarcation line about Albert Lee where you had to be conservative south of Albert
Well,
Lee.
the first district, that area in Minnesota, has always been pretty much a Republican district over the years. But, in politics, the pendulum swings back and forth. And Tim Walz ran in 2006. He ran a very long campaign, about 18 months, and the trends were with him. And he ran a strong campaign and won.
Okay.
Happens.
You said before the last break, you said something about you work for the Treasury Department. Were you one of them coming to steal my car or take my house kind of Treasury guy or what?
Nothing like that. I had some experience in the national politics. I worked for a Minnesota congressman named Arlen Stanglin, a good conservative. We did some important things, work for welfare legislation, Second Amendment rights, right to life, broad-based tax reform. After that, I did have an opportunity to work as an executive in the Treasury Department, a place called the Financial Management Service. It's the part of Treasury that handles the government's accounts. One of their duties is to pay people, veterans benefits or, Social Security benefits, things like that. And I identified an area of inefficiency. I thought we were making too many check payments instead of electronic payments, and I asked my boss about it, and he said, well, Hagedorn, we need a bill to get that done, and if you can get it done, more power to you. And 3 years later, I got a bill through the Congress, and we shut down 4 check writing centers for the Treasury, eliminated bureaucrat jobs, and saved the taxpayers about $1.5 billion.
So you're the guy responsible for direct deposit.
Well, direct deposit was around, but it was not mandated until we passed what was called the EFT 99 Act.
So you're responsible for that.
I'm
Congratulations,
responsible.
and thank you very much.
Well,
you saved me how much money?
The taxpayers about $1.5 billion.
Okay, so with that vast experience, and you want to be our congressman, and you want to serve on ag, give me a couple of other brilliant Jim Hagedorn money-saving ideas that when you're elected to Congress you would be able to implement.
Well, I think my campaign is about big ideas. And what I'm talking about in our campaign is taking the power back from Washington and sending it back to the states and the people. And that's going to require taking the power away from the establishment of both parties. Both parties have gotten us into this mess. But I think we need to be block granting monies back to the states, whether it's transportation, education, whatever, and let the legislators and the governors and the people of the states make those decisions on how the monies are spent. Another way to take power from Washington and give it to the people is through a flat tax or a consumption tax. Let the people decide how to spend their money rather than the politicians and the bureaucrats telling them how to do that.
We've talked about that numerous times, and we had a conversation not too long ago. I was in a conversation with somebody. Dr. Annette Bosworth. She wants to be the next United States Senator from South Dakota. She's a Republican, and she promotes that. Realistically speaking, is that going to happen?
Well, it did in the 80s when I worked for the congressman. They passed the Bradley-Gephardt legislation, which made a very flat tax with, I think, two brackets at that time. That was a Democrat-Republican bipartisan bill. I think the country's ready for it, and frankly, we need that in order to stimulate some growth. I mean, the tax code is hampering things down almost as much as regulations out in Washington. We talk to people all the time, farmers, business people, especially small business people, bankers, and these regulations coming out of Washington are just crushing business and driving up consumer costs.
Okay, so you're doing the typical Republican mantra of there's too much regulation. So name 3 or 4 that if you're there, you want to wipe out.
Well, right now, I think you're seeing a big one coming out of the EPA, which is going to effectively impose a cap-and-trade type of environment on the coal industry. And when you wipe out the coal industry, you're going to drive up electricity rates for the people across the country.
So that's a proposal right now. Is it possible that could get enacted before your election in November and swearing in January?
I don't believe that rule would be promulgated and implemented before then. It's open for discussion now. And Congressman Walz just last week voted to sustain that. The Republicans tried to block that.
Okay. I want to go back to agriculture for a minute. And I know you're Southwest Minnesota, so I have a sense of where you're coming from. Can you explain to me why we are subsidizing peanuts and cotton? And I'm not asking that in a mean-spirited heartland of America thing, but I just don't get that.
Well, the Farm Bill is a very complicated bill, and it's put together with a lot of different interests. Obviously, by the way, I'm from South Central Minnesota. The city of Blue Earth is where I live, right off I-90 there.
Nice little place there. Yeah, driving along the interstate, you got all that wonderful high fencing there by Blue Earth because you got all those deer that try and cross the interstate. Been there, done that.
And the Jolly Green Giant over there.
Of
Come
course.
by and see him sometime.
Yeah,
But
okay.
no, the thing about the Farm Bill is I believe we have to sustain family farming as best as possible. Where I think you can make some inroads down the road is to take a look at either the size of farms or the values of the farmers that are working the land and so forth, and maybe make some changes. But here's where I come down. Whatever changes we make to agriculture, we have to make sure that they can be phased in over time so they don't pull the rug out from under farmers who have built up to a demand or gotten used to certain programs. If we have to make sure that we don't do anything to disrupt our economy here in southern Minnesota, because if we do, it's going to have a ripple effect across the board, and it's going to hurt people very much.
One of the big catching points this last time around was whether, and I'm going to say food stamps, but that's not the right term anymore, but most people know what that is, whether that should have been part of the Farm Bill or not. What do you think?
Well, at the time that when I started running, they asked me those questions, and I just predicted that ultimately the Republicans would tie the nutrition programs and the Farm Bill back together because they wouldn't want 500 ag groups mad at them going into the election. And by golly, that turned out to be the case.
Okay, so that's where it belongs.
Well, yeah, I think in the future, we'll have another Farm Bill in 5 years. We can make some gains. What we need for these nutrition or food stamp programs is work for welfare type of reforms. We can go in there and make these programs work. Ultimately, the best thing for the people is to have a strong economy. And to have a strong economy, we have to get the government off businesses' backs, especially small business, which is hurting right now.
We're going to take another break. Jim Hagedorn is with us. This is VPU.
No. Oh.
26 minutes after 4 o'clock, Jim Hagedorn, conservative Republican, Blue Earth, Minnesota. He wants to be the congressman from the 1st Congressional District, that is Southwest Minnesota. He is here doing the flying the flag thing in Sioux Falls because the media is here and for Southwest Minnesota. And so we're chatting with him about what he wants to do if he's congressman. Okay, pointed question. You have said more than once now about rules on businesses, rules and regulations on businesses and how bad that is, and you want to change that and get rid of that. I got to ask you, name 2 things that your people are telling you are really onerous and are messing up their businesses in Southwest Minnesota.
Well, I'll give you one that's out of the Dodd-Frank Act. And if you talk to
the finance bank. Oh.
Yeah, you talk to a small regional bank, anything under $350 million, they'll tell you that they're having a hard time making loans to consumers for either business or to help them get into homes or whatever. And it's a huge problem for them. A lot of people think if you're under $350 million, you're going to be swallowed up or go out of business. That's how bad and onerous that bill is. Congressman Walz voted for it. I'm for its repeal. I'll give you another example.
You want to repeal the whole bill?
Yes. We went from too big to fail to too big to fail, in my estimation. I think that's just making big banks more powerful.
Okay.
Another one would be EPA regulations coming out either against farmers with their combines, or in this case, we talked to a company in Jackson, Minnesota. They make manifolds for big trucks. Those devices go on there. They help the trucks get more power. They help the trucks get more better gas mileage, and less emissions. And the EPA comes in and says, prove to us that you're not harming the environment. And they said, well, no, prove to us that we are. They said, it doesn't work that way. And so this little company might have to spend $1 million to stay in business. Well, they don't have $1 million.
Of course not.
And when they go out of business, what happens? 13 or 14 people in the city of Jackson lose their jobs, and these people lose their livelihoods. That's a government that is so big and so powerful and out of whack that it needs to be stymied.
Okay, final question, and this affects everybody listening to us, whether they're in Minnesota, Iowa, or South Dakota. The Lewis and Clark pipeline.
Yes.
I'm sure you are up to speed on that big time.
So
what is the delegation in the 3 states doing wrong that they are unable to crack the bureaucracies to get that funded properly?
I can't tell you why it's taken decades now to get that thing done, but Senator Bill Weber over in Minnesota, Representative Schumacher, Representative Hamilton, very concerned about this. I've been speaking with them. We had $1 trillion stimulus bill passed here a few years ago. Congressman Walz voted for it. Where's the money? How come things like this don't get done? That's a disgrace. And the people there are counting on this, and we have to deliver. That's a project I've been looking at for many, many months.
Okay. We're out of time. And you're perspiring, so it did
Wow.
my job.
Thank you. Hey, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Jim Hagedorn, Southwest Minnesota. They're coming up on April 5th. Or actually, there's a deal, what did you say, Rock County?
Rock County and Laverne tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. And where in? There's
the Pizza
a lot.
Ranch, actually, in Laverne.
Okay. Where people gather.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you'll be there, obviously.
I'm going to give a stem winder of a speech.
Okay. Very good. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Same here. Thank you.
Have fun on the campaign trail.
We are having fun.
Okay. That's good. Jim Hagedorn, thank you very much. This is Viewpoint University, 1140 KSOO.